Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I want to talk about episode 2. So obviously, this will contain full spoilers for episode 2. So I hope you guys are all aware of that. Really incredible episode. And honestly, it ended in a way that I wasn't expecting. And I'm actually very happy in terms of the pacing and stuff of the story. I think the pacing right now, they're going through a lot of the stuff that, we've been kind of wanting them to, and the stuff that we knew they had to get through more quickly. But I have heard the next couple of episodes, the pacing slows down quite a bit. So we'll see where that goes. But anyways, obviously this will contain spoilers for episode 2. So I hope you guys are all aware of that. And if you are new to the channel, definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all of my Walking Dead content like this. I will be posting an episode 3 trailer breakdown after this, and then I'll post a video on the very ending scene of this as soon as the episode airs on cable. So yeah, expect that. And then there's a bunch of stuff we have to talk about throughout the next week, right? So the intro does a really great job in this episode of introducing, what Michonne's been up to, why she's with this place. And it's, again, it's just a very good recap on just sort of what she's been up to over the last however long, because there isn't that much to explain with Michonne, right? I mean, they got into some stuff in here that I was very surprised with. I honestly was not expecting a lot of what happened to Michonne, I guess, after she left to the point where she found Rick. I was really surprised with that, but there wasn't a lot of, what they had to get into with her because she found another group. And then eventually, at some point she would find Rick. Whereas with Rick, he was gone for a very long time, right? And so that's why I think that episode focused mostly on him and what was going on there. And this episode focused a lot on Michonne, but it didn't end in the same way because obviously there wasn't as much to tell. And also the ending and like the second half of this episode is just honestly phenomenal. The intro, like the opening credits overall look the same, but this time we have Michonne there. So I'm assuming that next week for episode 3, the only difference is going to be Rick and Michonne are both going to be here, because last time Rick was on the other side. This time Michonne's on this side. So I think for episode 3, we're going to have Rick and Michonne together. That's kind of what I'm assuming here. But we do see Michonne, she meets this new group here, and immediately we learn that this group leaves people behind. So I will say that it's definitely something that I was kind of disappointed in. I thought this group would matter overall, just more with the story, but it really feels like they just kind of, I don't want to say wrote themselves out of this storyline, but the storyline really didn't really mean much overall. Like, this group leaves people behind. Michonne was with them, and yes, we learned of newer characters that were really cool. Nat is a really amazing character, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there was a good story throughout this episode. Nat was a really awesome character. The whole story here was really cool, but in terms of the group part of it, like, the group was just done with right away. Like, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, they were just already done with that group. So, all the, how long we've just been sort of wondering, like, Michonne's group, like, what are they like and what sort of connections do they have to these people and all that. It's really like nothing. So that I was a little disappointed in, because I kind of wanted to get a little bit more, but I guess I do get it in terms of where they're going with the story. You can't really have a group like that out there, but we do meet this new character named Nat. And again, I absolutely like, that's 2 episodes now where they introduce newer characters that everyone just like immediately is a huge fan favorite. Like, there was Okafor and now Nat. This group though, they leave people behind, and the whole thing here in this moment here was basically, Michonne saved Bailey and Aiden, I believe their names are. And so I guess they gave Michonne a horse. Well, Nat did, because they weren't actually going to give her a horse, or it didn't seem like it. They're kind of dancing around that. So yeah, eventually Michonne did get a horse, and she mentioned that she was going north. So a lot of the reason why she was going north is because she wanted to get to a place called Bridger's Terminal. And if you remember in season 10, episode 13, I believe it was Michonne's final episode, where she finds Rick's boots, there's actually a note in that book there where it says like Bridger's Terminal or something like that. And there's a reference to New Jersey. We know that Rick's in Philadelphia, right? So Michonne's just getting closer and closer. And so all of those walkers that were there, she had to get through those walkers. And so that's why Michonne was trying to get there. She was actually getting very close, right? Like, that was the last place that ship was in. So she did get very close. And so that's why she saw the CRM and dealt with all of that. But yeah, that's why she had to go through that walker horde. And that's why they were saying, don't go north. Like, you don't want to go north because of the walker horde and all that, which I actually do wonder if the walker horde is related to the CRM's columns, because the CRM, we know, like, they have columns of walkers, and it's a lot of walkers, and they just sort of, they lead them into certain places, and yeah, they kind of use them as weapons and whatnot. So I'm wondering if that's kind of what that was there. But anyways, Michonne goes to take on this horde because she's like, well, I gotta go and check this place out, so I'm gonna go through there. And she tries, but it's like impossible. There's too many walkers. She's creating explosions in there, but it's not doing, what she wants. And then there's purple explosions out of nowhere. And I was so surprised by this just because it was like purple. It didn't really make sense to me in that moment. And then we have this path opening up, and then, yeah, it's like literally a path opening up, and there's like a sea of walkers, and then Michonne's able to just, I guess, like walk right through that, right? So, yeah, we learned that Nat was responsible, and then now she has this group. Nat, Bailey, and Aiden, they left the group that was just leaving people, which was obviously very smart. And yeah, now they're going to help Michonne go and find Rick, and Michonne does offer them, like, after all of this, once I do find Rick, like, you guys can come back to Alexandria, and yeah, honestly, it was I really loved how much Alexandria was brought up in this episode because it makes sense. Like, you're going to bring up Alexandria a lot, right? Like, that's where Michonne's from. Rick even brings it up later on in the episode. But I will say, for those asking, Alexandria, to the best of Michonne's knowledge, is just a place that needs to be sort of built up and all of that. And obviously, things haven't been the same for them, but she has no knowledge of the Commonwealth. She has no knowledge of any of that. She doesn't even know that the Whisperers went through there. Like, she knows that they were dealing with them, but that was basically kind of it. Like, she learned at the end that, they dealt with them or whatever. So I think she's assuming that they're all kind of fine. So yeah, she has no knowledge of the Commonwealth or anything like that. But again, Michonne's goal right now is to go to Bridges Terminal, and then that's just where they're going. And so over time, and again, they do this very fast. Like, I feel like a lot of this happens within the first couple of months. And we see Michonne's group just build. Like, a lot of the people that were with that group are just leaving them, and now they're with Michonne. And then we see the CRM helicopter, and yeah, a lot of gas is dropped. It's chlorine gas specifically, and just really insane. So first of all, it does happen sort of randomly, and I was wondering if there was a connection here to how she learns of the CRM, but obviously that doesn't happen yet. But she does see the helicopter, and I was not expecting this storyline. Like, Michonne, Nat, and Bailey and Aiden, obviously they died right away, but I was not expecting them to have to suffer like that. And they were basically in like a mall of some sorts, or maybe it was a furniture shop or something like that. They were in a place like that trying to get better, to get healthy for like a year, right? Like, they were in there for a long time trying to get better, and I just wasn't expecting that from Michonne. I thought the whole time she was out there trying to find Rick, but like, she almost died trying to find Rick. Right? Like, she actually had to just sit in that place for almost a year, work out and stuff like that, just slowly get better. And it took a long time. Like, we see the seasons change. It's like fall, and then it's winter, and then eventually it's like spring or summer, right? So that was like, I would say roughly a year went by, especially considering the time beforehand. We know overall it's like 2 years or something like that, right? Like, she was gone for a while. So yeah, that's what Michonne was going through this entire time, which honestly, I can't even, like, again, I was just surprised by that. I was just so surprised to see that Michonne actually went through a lot of that. And that's what I like. I like the fact that I can still watch this show and I'm predicting all of these things, but I'm like wrong with certain predictions. And like, the show surprises me so much. And they introduce these like really interesting storylines where I'm like, man, that really builds up the character a lot. Like, Michonne has went through a lot in order to get to Rick, right? So yeah, we see Michonne and Nat, they're resting a lot, obviously, to get better. And then she eventually does get to Bridges Terminal, and then there's nothing there. And so that was the place she was trying to get to. She was trying to get to that ship, and yeah, the ship is just, it's all done. The CRM most likely dealt with this entire place already. And at this point now, she just wants to give up. She doesn't want to, but I think she's starting to learn that she has to. And I was not expecting this. Like, Michonne, she's just like, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of done. I can't keep continuing with this anymore. Like, the answer was right in front of me the whole time, but I was just in denial about it. And she really did not want to give up on trying to find Rick. But she did. Like, she was just like, you know what? I tried. Like, that line that she says, she's like, you know what? If he was still out there, he would have found his way back already. The thing about that is that is so true. Like, that is very true. But she just wasn't taking into consideration the fact that, the CRM exists, because who knows of a place like that would exist, right? That's so unbelievable. So, like, yeah, she's right about that. Like, Rick would normally get back, but it's just where he's at. It pretty much makes it impossible. So Michonne, at this point, she accepts it, and she actually goes back to Alexandria. So again, another part to the story I was not expecting. Michonne gave up, and she was going back. And it's interesting to look at Rick and Michonne's story now, because Rick also gave up, right? Rick was trying to get away, and then Rick was just like, no, I can't do this anymore. And sort of, he burned everything of Michonne and Judith and everything that he sort of had of them, and was just going to move on. Michonne did the same thing. She was just like, you know what, I can go back. I tried. and she was on her way back. And it's just so interesting that both characters gave up trying to find each other. And then the helicopter scene happens. And so we see a helicopter fly by. Nat is like immediately like, we're going to take this helicopter down. And I love that because Michonne's like, well, no, we got to deal with that or whatever. And Nat's like, well, yeah, obviously I wasn't going to just like run away. And I like that because, yeah, both of them are just on the same page about this. Like, no, we're going to deal with them. And yeah, we see Nat, he uses his like missiles or whatever that is and actually takes down the helicopter. He mentions at one point, like, oh, that was a dud. Like, I think one of the missiles didn't work. But it actually did get inside the helicopter, and obviously it hit Okafor, and so that's what killed Okafor, right? So it's kind of insane to see the backstory to that. But then obviously he just hits the helicopter, and the helicopter goes down, and the whole scene plays out very interestingly. Like, you just, obviously we knew Rick was there, but I like how it played out with the CRM soldiers sort of running around and all that, because like they all seem just like nothing characters, right? Like they're just sort of CRM soldiers, but like one of them is Rick Grimes, right? So it was kind of cool to see Michonne's perspective here and why Michonne was killing all the CRM soldiers because of what they did to the group that she was with, and also what Michonne just experienced for the last like year or so, you know, trying to survive because she almost died. So killing all of them, definitely it was very smart that she was like taking off their helmets because she could have killed Rick, right? So yeah, then we get that reunion scene, and it was honestly, I felt it's funny because you see the scene at the end of episode 1 and you get all emotional, but it was even more emotional in episode 2 for some weird reason. Maybe it's because you're focused more on Michonne's story. Maybe that's just more for me, you know, personally, it just affected me more, but it was interesting to see both characters talking again because at the end of episode 1, they didn't talk, right? So they were actually talking in this scene here, and Rick immediately asks about Judith, like, is she okay, right? And Michonne's like, yeah, she's okay. And it was just a really incredible scene to see them together and just like that shock of all of that. And it's, you know, like I look back at the whole reunion of the characters, and I think they did a really great job. You know, it was 2 episodes of it, 2 episodes celebrating these characters getting back together. I think that was perfect. Honestly, like I'm definitely very happy with what they did here. And yeah, then we see Rick very scared of the CRM. Like the moment's all happy and whatever, and then all of a sudden he hears something and he's like scared immediately, and you just see the fear in his eyes. Like he's telling Michonne, you gotta lie about this, you can't say this. Oh, he says like, don't call them walkers, I call them that, which I thought was really cool. Like he's just saying, don't say anything, don't be strong, don't be a leader. Basically, be the opposite of who you are, because if you are who you are in that place, they're going to kill you. And Rick seemed so scared, and Michonne just seemed so confused. She's just like, wait, what's going on? Like, you know, and I think at that point there, and I watched the episode Insider, that's one of the things that Michonne, she's kind of experiencing right now. Like she recognizes Rick, you know, he's talking and all that, and it's like, I can see it's Rick, and he is recognizable, but there's something different about him. There's, you know, and that's what I'm really interested in now. Like we got the reunion and everything, but now what's next, right? And I'm really interested in some of the arguments that are going to come of that. I think in episode 4, they're going to get into that, I believe, at least based off the early reviews. So I'm really looking forward to that because, I mean, they're both different people now. You know, they both have experienced a lot. And so obviously there's going to be some things that do come up. And Michonne, you know, she senses that in Rick. Like she sees him. It's like, I recognize you, like you're Rick, but there's something different, right? And it's a lot of, you know, what Rick has went through. Rick has experienced a lot there. And you can tell because there's a scene later on, and we'll get to it, but Michonne is asking, like, should we fight back kind of thing? And Rick's like, no, we can't, right? I do feel like that was always the case with Rick. Like, Michonne has always been the character that's like, I want to fight back. Like, we can't be doing this. Like, we need to actually fight back against, you know, just this villain or whatever. And Rick's always been like, no, we can't, sort of thing. And then eventually he's convinced to do so. So I do think that's probably going to come up at some point in the future here in this season. But right now, Rick is just like, he's trying to follow the rules and everything, and he's really like, he's trying to convince Michonne, like, we can't do all of this stuff or whatever, and we just gotta leave this place alone and we'll get away kind of thing, right? So, but yeah, then we get Nat's death in this scene, and you know, in terms of my thoughts on the actual death, it was shocking when it happened. I wasn't really expecting it, but it did make sense because I was saying before, like, I didn't know how Nat would really, I didn't know what was gonna happen with Nat. Like, once they got to the CRM, I knew he wasn't there. So maybe he stayed with the group, and I didn't question it throughout the episode because I just wasn't really thinking of that. I was watching the episode, but I kind of figured that something would happen to him at some point, but I wasn't really thinking that he would die in this episode, but that's sort of the same thing with Okafor. I wasn't thinking he was going to go as well in the first episode. So yeah, they're both, you know, 1 episode characters, but both very phenomenal characters, and the writing to me was just honestly really, really amazing. So yeah, then we see obviously Rick and Michonne. I mean, first of all, Rick holds Michonne at gunpoint, and we basically get the same exact shot that Rick was in the very final episode of The Walking Dead. Very, very cool. And obviously Michonne is smiling here, but it was just, honestly, like the visuals are insane. Like Rick being taken away by the CRM, and then Michonne also now being taken away by the CRM, but Rick is also now a part of the CRM. Just very crazy, right? But Michonne is at the CRM, and then we do see her lying about everything. She's saying her name is Dana, and she's just kind of going into a whole story and all of that. She does mention some things that kind of seem like they're, a little true in terms of like Georgia and all of that. Like she talks about some of that, which I kind of found interesting, because some of it is somewhat true because, like they were in Georgia a long time ago before they came to Alexandria. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. And then, then we get this scene of Michonne and Rick actually talking, and Michonne, again, wants to fight back. Rick just doesn't really want to. He's just more worried about escaping. She does notice that he doesn't have a hand, which I found kind of funny. She was just like, wait, what? And Rick's like, yeah, that was like one of the last times I tried to escape. And then she actually caught on to that. She was like, the last time? And I was going to laugh because, oh, is she upset about that? Like, is she upset that Rick was like, I guess, gave up on trying to find her kind of thing? And so I don't think she was really upset, but I think she was more interested, like, in his mindset. Like, oh, that was one of the last times. So are you at a point now where you weren't going to try and find me anymore? Again, I don't think she's mad about it. I think she's more interested in just like the mindset that he's at kind of thing. And I think she wants to know so much about what Rick's been through. And she's obviously, not going to be upset about that because Michonne gave up and she was on her way back to Alexandria, right? I wonder if that's some of the stuff that could come up. Because again, in episode 4, it's supposed to get very personal between the two characters. And there's a lot of stuff where they're together and everything, but there's a lot where it's like, apparently there's arguments and stuff, and you just really see the passion between the characters. So I'm just really interested in like the type of arguments that are going to come up. And I wonder if a lot of it is really focused on like Rick not wanting to fight back, and like, I don't know, honestly, there could be a lot. But yeah, this scene here was just incredible. It was so cool to see them talking about some normal stuff, but it looks like we're going to be getting a lot of that later on. And yeah, then obviously Rick goes back to his apartment. Michonne walks to the ladder. And as we're seeing a lot of this here, we see somebody watching some of the footage of Michonne. And at first I was like, wait, who is this? I thought maybe it was Beale. Obviously it was someone that knew Michonne. It kind of felt like that. And then eventually it's revealed to be Jadis. And before this happens here, we have Michonne actually look at the CRM, all the helicopters, all of their vehicles and everything, basically all of the military. And she's holding that lighter, right? It was Nat's lighter, and it says danger on it. And she looks like she wants to fight back. Like, she is not done with this place here. So it's very, very interesting. Like, Michonne and Rick are both in very different mindsets at this point, right? Like, Michonne wants to fight back. She wants to make these people pay. She wants to change, I guess, probably the CRM and all that. And Rick is just like, I want to escape, right? So there's been a lot of talk of like Pearl Thorne, becoming a villain and all of that. I think some of that could be true in terms of, her being, on the CRM side. But if you remember, she wanted to change the CRM. She was originally siding with Okafor and all of this, right? So I actually kind of see her probably being more like, I guess, accepting of Michonne. And I feel like Pearl and Michonne could probably really get along. At least that's my prediction as of now. Just because obviously they both have the same goal, basically, right? So I can see that. Like, it's different than with Rick, right? Rick is just very scared. And so going to the very last scene here, honestly, the most insane scene ever. Jadis is in Rick's apartment, and Jadis knows Michonne is here, and Jadis is wondering what's going on. And she didn't say exactly that, but really incredible scene. She threatens Rick that if you guys try to escape or anything like that, she's going to destroy Alexandria entirely. And so now I am very, very curious on just sort of the state of all of this here, because there's a lot of people that know. I don't know about Beale. Beale could know about things with Rick. But I'm very interested in where the story is going to be going here, because Jadis, like, Rick and Michonne can't escape. Like, if they're going to go back, Jadis needs to be dead, basically, right? And so how do you do all of that when the CRM are going to be wondering about a lot of stuff? Like, there's so much here. Like, they're not going to be able to just easily escape. There's really no way. And they're building it up like it's going to be so hard to escape. And, like, that's the thing. Jadis, I don't think she's, like, not thinking all this through. Like, I'm sure for her, she's like, yeah, obviously to Rick, he's probably thinking, well, if I just get rid of you, then I don't have to worry about this. I feel like Jadis has like a plan in place where if something does happen to her, then something's going to happen to Alexandria, right? So there's got to be something there, I feel like. And yeah, I mean, obviously this cliffhanger here, Rick is now very scared because Rick didn't know of really any of this. I guess they never really threatened him with any of that before, right? And so now he's here, and Jadis is like basically saying, if you try stuff, if you try to leave, this and that, everyone in Alexandria, everyone you know, they're all gone, basically, right? That is like, I honestly, like, it was the most insane thing I've ever really seen on The Walking Dead. Like, in a while, obviously, like, it was just I don't know what the best word to use to describe that. I guess like chilling. It was just very chilling. Like, I am honestly, as of right now, I am more terrified of Jadis than I am of Major General Beale. And that's what I will say about Major General Beale. You know, I think we will see some scenes of him in episode 3, but it doesn't really look like it based off of the trailer. Again, there's probably going to be some stuff, but it doesn't look like it. And I'm assuming they're going to escape in episode 3 at the very end, or in episode 4. I feel like something's going to happen, but like, that's what I mean. So like, if episode 4, you know, they're away and the episode is focused just on Rick and Michonne, that basically means we're not going to see a lot of Major General Beale or Jadis or anything until episode 5. Like, we'll see some stuff of Jadis and a little bit of Beale in 3, but the next time is 5. And I am starting to see why a lot of the early reviewers were saying, like, after 4 episodes, you're just like, there's no way this is done in 2 episodes. It feels like everything just started. And that is kind of where we're at. It does feel like we just got the intro to everything, right? Like, now we just finished the whole intro to the story here. We got our backstory on the characters. Now they're together, and now the story's going to begin here with episode 3. Yeah, so I guess we'll have to see where we get to by then. But in terms of episode 2, very phenomenal episode. I was honestly very surprised. Like, it wasn't just like, you know, all of the exciting stuff that happened with like Rick and Jadis and Michonne once they got to the CRM. It was the stuff beforehand as well. Michonne's story in terms of what she had to go through in that furniture store or whatever to survive. I was not expecting a lot of that. Like, the whole episode was entertaining pretty much from like beginning to end. There hasn't really been a dull moment in this show yet, which I really, really like. I'm trying to think of an actual moment where I was like, okay, this is kind of boring. I don't really know. Like, maybe the opening credits, because I've seen it so many times. So like, when it happens, I'm like, you know, I want to press skip intro, but like, not really, because I really like the opening credits. So yeah, I don't know. They're doing really great. Episode 2 so far. Would I say this episode is better than episode 1? Honestly, I can't really say it's better. To me, they're both on par. I feel like I really liked learning about what Rick was up to and all of that, but I really liked, you know, Michonne's story here, and then the build up to like the ending scene with Jadis. Like, both episodes were really, really phenomenal. So definitely post all your thoughts down below. I will be posting my episode 3 trailer breakdown after this, so definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get that. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.